Hello all, and hello CBS. My name is James Johnson, aka Sulfur Blade, and I primarily YouTube in the media of video games, especially video games on the personal computer genres of the internet. So I have been dabbling in coverage of Star Trek Discovery and to a smaller extent the Orville, only because at this point in time the Orville is the superior sci-fi experience over Star Trek Discovery. This message is going to be a little different. Um, well, this video is going to be a little different in that I want it to be a message. And I understand that CBS has hardworking, diligent folks out there looking to, I don't know, demonetize YouTubers or somebody, or finding your way to um, regulate internet opinion about your programming. Um, and so, you hardworking people who are looking to demonetize or find any copyright infringements or anything CBS related, please pass this video up your chain of command. This is a message for CBS, and this is an honest message. This is a passionate message. This is a message from me, just a simple guy on the internet who believes that he has good advice for you, the corporate giant in America. And this is in regards to CBS All Access, and it's also in regards to Star Trek Discovery. So, there are two separate issues I'm going to talk about in this message to you, CBS, and the board of directors of CBS. And I hope that you do eventually get this message, or it somehow makes it to your ear. Maybe other YouTubers might see this video and who have a larger audience might parrot this video and get it out to their audiences, and maybe someday it will somehow reach you if it's not necessarily from my lips. So, you've had a lot of stuff going on in the CBS world. Your board has changed hands. Les Moonves has been fired. Sherry Redstone is getting control of Paramount and CBS, and it's only a matter of time till the CBS universe and the Paramount Viacom universe is put back together in one piece. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, at least from my point of view as a consumer in the Star Trek universe. I see this as a good thing. But at the moment in time, there are some serious issues in Star Trek universe that desperately need to be fixed ASAP. And only you, the board of directors at CBS, can do this properly. Now, let's be clear that I want to try to present this in a manner that makes sense. So first, let's start with the all access issues and what I think CBS needs to do on the all access front so that CBS All Access can lead the way from network television perspectives inside of the internet. So first off, let's go back in history to how networks came to be. And by networks, I'm talking about CBS, ABC, NBC. I'm talking about the guys who spread television shows via the airwaves for people to watch at home via old school technologies via an antenna. Before the invention of the internet, the primary method in which television was transferred via media was via the antenna, and CBS, NBC, and ABC had television stations across the country. And the reason that you networks had television stations across the country oftentimes were not just because of the money that you as a network put into it. It oftentimes had to do with taxpayers and local governments funding television stations to be put inside of certain geographical areas that benefited you. So taxpayers' money oftentimes benefited you, CBS and ABC and NBC, in allowing you guys to almost become a monopoly in the television land. You guys have been the big three networks for as long as I can remember in the United States. And you have had taxpayers' help in order to get there. Yes, television was always something that was free for us to watch via the airwaves because of those annoying advertisements that you would fill into every hour-long segment. There would be 4 breaks for advertisements in our favorite hour-long television show, or 2 breaks during a half-hour show. And this was just something we learned to live with, and it worked. It worked for everyone. Now, here we are in the world of the internet, and the internet is a very different medium. And obviously, we can't just let Hulu control the entire median of the internet, or Amazon or Netflix. Obviously, it makes sense as a network who's been providing television for the masses for years that you, the networks, would want to get in on providing what you do. You provide TV shows, and you'll want to do that on the internet, just like Hulu, who was the very first people probably to start providing TV shows on the internet. The thing is, Hulu wasn't a network. Hulu were people that had to go and find shows from you, or from ABC, or from NBC, or from HBO, or whatever network and or cable syndicate would allow them to rebroadcast their show. You don't have that issue. You can rebroadcast your shows, and you don't have to pay for them the way Hulu did. So while Hulu made sense to charge access to people wanting to watch Hulu, it doesn't necessarily make sense for you, CBS, or for that matter Fox, or for that matter ABC and NBC. Getting Fox confused here. Fox is actually syndicated cable, not necessarily a network, as sometimes we get confused with, because Fox has kind of cut into you guys' market a bit. But I digress. Let's get back to the topic of how should you be providing your television shows on the internet. And for the most part, CBS, you do a really good job of providing your television shows on the internet. You've stuck with the old formula of putting in advertisement breaks. But for some reason, you're deciding to stray into CBS All Access. And the idea of CBS All Access is kind of a slap in the face to your fan base. I don't know if you realize that or not, but when you started putting premium shows like Star Trek Discovery, obviously, since we're having this conversation, but also The Good Fight and some of these other programs were locked behind the pay gate, it infuriated me. And I know I'm not the only person to be infuriated by this move, especially because CBS, you are where you are because of us, the taxpayer. And now all of a sudden we have to start spending money for our TV. We haven't spent money for watching you, CBS, and your shows. We've never spent money to watch you. And now you're wanting to make us spend money to watch your best shows on CBS All Access. It just doesn't work. And by going about this path, you're giving yourself a black eye. If anything, um, you should be leading the way in providing CBS television shows free of charge with advertisements, of course, on the internet for everybody, i.e., The Good Fight and Star Trek Discovery. And these shows that you've decided to put behind a paywall, they should come out from behind the paywall. If you want to put anything behind a paywall, put a CBS premium access behind a paywall. And what would premium access features be? Well, for one, how about without ads? People will pay to be able to watch your shows without ads. Maybe the ability to fast forward, rewind, pause. Your common DVR setup things can be part of CBS Premium. So not only can you have an ad-free experience, you can pause your show, you can rewind it. But for normal CBS streaming, the person just has to watch at the pace of the show. They have to deal with the commercials, but you're not charging them for it. This would be, in my opinion, the best way that you could continue to provide quality television on the internet, and do so in a way that is going to make us, the consumer, happy about you, CBS. Because let me tell you, there are other networks I'm not too happy with how they're doing their internet streaming. Fox, for instance, which is cable syndicated, so they're a little bit of a different story. Um, you can't watch Fox unless you have some sort of cable television package that you can link to your internet account to prove that you have permission or whatever. And it's a whole bunch of bullshit. Um, and if anything, it makes them hard to watch. NBC, ABC, they don't have the quality of they don't have the quality of programming that you have, CBS, and then they also do some other various shady tactics as well that I'm not exactly a fan of. The person, the CBS, you're actually the guys I'm the largest fan of for watching TV on the internet, and that's your non all access television. You do a good job of providing streamed television from your networks on CBS streaming platform. You should just stick with that. And I'm being very serious here. Just stick with that. Stick with what you're good at. Take these shows like Star Trek Discovery and The Good Fight and put them in with the rest of your programming. There's no reason to take your best stuff and hide it behind a paywall and piss off your customers. That's essentially what you're doing. Now, with that out of the way, let's transition this conversation from CBS All Access not necessarily being a very good idea into Star Trek and where you've gone with Star Trek Discovery and how Star Trek Discovery and Les Moonves haven't been good for Star Trek as a whole. Now, Les Moonves canceled Star Trek Enterprise, arguably in the heyday or when the Enterprise was at its height. And it seemed very perplexing for us Star Trek fans. Star Trek Enterprise and Scott Bakula and everything about the Enterprise was an excellent show. It resonated Star Trek, um, and it really was starting to become mainstream Star Trek. It really was winning over the Star Trek fan base and becoming another great addition to the Star Trek family, and you snuffed it out at its peak. And that was really perplexing for a lot of us who enjoyed Star Trek Enterprise. It didn't make much sense. Unless Moonves was the primary person who did that. Now, let's continue on to present day and Star Trek Discovery. And from what we understand is Les Moonves has not been a fan of Star Trek in general. But he was willing to trudge the Star Trek IP and bring it back into light to further the agenda of creating a CBS All Access platform, which, again, we just talked about, probably not the best idea. But it is a good idea to have a new Star Trek show. But the new Star Trek show, the Discovery, isn't a very good Star Trek show. In fact, it's anything but a good Star Trek show. The original showrunners that you guys canned, you needed to can them. They weren't very good. The first season of Star Trek Discovery was horrible. It stepped all over the canon, and while canon may be a word that makes corporate people in your boardroom, the people I'm sending this message to, well, canon may be something you guys hate talking about. It's something that's very important for us, the consumer. For us to believe Star Trek universe, it needs to be cohesive. It needs to make sense. Vulcan, for instance, the planet of Vulcan is a desert planet. It doesn't have maple trees on it. It's a desert. It's all red sand. Star Trek Discovery has, in so many ways, destroyed Star Trek canon. And canon destruction, on a whole, can be tolerated if the reason for the destruction brought better Star Trek. So I don't know how to explain this to you, but if the ends justifies the means, meaning it becomes a more enjoyable viewer experience, the viewer can forgive canon violations. But let's be straight, Star Trek Discovery is not a more enjoyable Star Trek experience. Star Trek Discovery flies in the face of everything Gene Roddenberry intended Star Trek to be. So, the last episode, Season 2, Episode 2, directed by Jonathan Frakes, was actually one of the best episodes I've seen to date. It showed that there could be hope for Star Trek Discovery to transition into a proper Star Trek show. But you need to make some radical changes. And I don't just mean cancel Star Trek Discovery. While that is a radical change, and one that a lot of us would probably be thankful for just to see the carnage stop, I think there's a better way to go about it. And the first and foremost way is to kill Michael Burnham. And I'm serious here. Michael Burnham's character needs to become a martyr. She needs to die She needs to go out in a hail of glory doing some amazing thing that saved the day, but just get her off the show. Because the show universe, the Star Trek universe, never does a show revolve around one person. And the show has revolved around that character far too much, and that character needs to go bye-bye. Let her be the hero, the martyr, whatever she is at some point, but just get rid of Michael Burnham. Get rid of that character. It's not good for the Star Trek universe. Whoever thought in the boardroom that putting Alex Kurtzman in charge of Star Trek was a good idea was a terrible idea. Alex Kurtzman is not a person who understands how to navigate the waters of canon and keep canon intact, which is what the Star Trek series needs to be so careful about doing. There's nothing wrong with doing a Star Trek Discovery show that is set before the original series. Nothing at all wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with bringing Pike in to the story either. Pike was actually a good idea. But what you need to make sure you're doing is portraying Pike correctly. Pike right now is the opposite of what Pike was in the cage. They could not be further apart in who Pike is, and it doesn't make sense. People understand that have been watching Star Trek for any period of time, and it's not hard to make a course correction on Pike. Now you can make course corrections and make Pike more like what Pike should be in the cage. You can kill off Michael Burnham and start having a Star Trek Discovery show that actually works as a Star Trek type episode that revolves around a complete story within each 60-minute segment. Like The Next Generation and the recipes beforehand. Each show was its own show with a broad overarching story. Right now, Star Trek Discovery is just the broad overarching story, and every individual segment is not a show within and of itself. The last episode that Jonathan Frakes did was the first episode that even remotely fits that bill, and it's the best episode I've seen to date, and it actually, as far as Star Trek Discovery goes, it's a great episode, but because it's in Star Trek Discovery, it's not a great Star Trek episode. It's great Star Trek Discovery episode, but because Star Trek Discovery is so far down the pike and has to climb so far to become on the average of Star Trek, that the last episode, season 2, episode 2, is garbage compared to normal Star Trek. But Jonathan Frakes needs to be commended because he made that garbage watchable. It was palatable. And if you can continue to improve upon Star Trek like you did in season 2, episode 2, there is hope for the show. But that means no Michael Kurtzman. That means getting people in that are going to care about the canon and are going to care about promoting the canon properly. We need to go back to the original colors of the uniforms. We need to stop the silly feminist propaganda and Me Too movement propaganda and leftist propaganda that's being portrayed in Star Trek Discovery. There's nothing wrong with Star Trek Discovery having a diverse cast. That was something Gene Roddenberry had always wanted and had always promoted, and Star Trek has always been a very great show for that reason. Star Trek Discovery always promoted moral and ethical and challenged the precepts of cultural taboo. There's nothing wrong with going back to that. But right now, what we're watching is, it's like the Gillette commercial on the internet. It's not good, guys. It really isn't. Let's go back to good quality TV. Let's not make the white guy the blunt of jokes. You got to remember, CBS, the white guy is your primary audience in sci-fi. Don't piss off your primary audience by killing off the man-hater in the pod in season 2, episode 1, Brother. Um, we don't need that type of message put into Star Trek at all. Tiptoe through the tulip bushes. Figure out how to spread the message that men and women are equal and we're all smart, not just Michael Burnham. Go back to what Star Trek is supposed to be, and that's a utopia where men and women are actually equal and everyone has the capacity of saving the day, not just Tilly and Michael Burnham. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So really the message for CBS and the board of directors is you have a show that could still carry the day, but you have to make some drastic changes. You have to get rid of Michael Burnham. She's not good for a start. No Star Trek show should focus around one person. You need to stop thinking that bringing Spock back into this timeline is good for it. Whoever the original writer was that wanted to avoid Spock at all costs was right. You need to avoid Spock at all costs. You should limit any Spock references you can, because you're opening yourself up to horrible canon violations. Spock is a beloved character, and Star Trek Discovery has not built up any credit at all to be able to even utter the word Spock. Star Trek Discovery has to build up a fan base, a credible, loyal Star Trek fan base, before it can start treading on the hallowed ground that is Spock. What you have done right now is blasphemy. Star Trek Discovery is Star Trek blasphemy. The spec, or whatever the kid is that you brought in to look like a demonic version of Spock, is terrible. It's awful. It's horrible. It could be the death of Star Trek, guys. If someone in the boardroom actually thought it was a good idea to bring Spock back into the mess, it was a horrible idea in the boardroom, if that is true. You need to start getting Spock out of this storyline. Pike is fine. Pike is an open book. Pike is a character you can exploit because we don't know that much about Pike. Pike is a sensible character to use to link the two episodes. So go nuts with Pike, but don't go nuts with Spock. Bad idea. Get rid of Kurtzman. Kurtzman doesn't understand how to tiptoe through the garden of canon. Bring in people like Jonathan Frakes, who understands Star Trek canon and what Star Trek means. Jonathan Frakes can help save Star Trek Discovery. Use him. Ask him questions. Rely on him. And he can save the day. If there should be somebody in charge of Star Trek at CBS, it's Jonathan Frakes, guys, not Michael Kurtzman. Michael Kurtzman is an idiot. He's only ever ruined great IPs. He killed Spider-Man. He didn't do Transformers that much justice. Just because it seems like he made money on the big screen, he's not making money here in TV land. Get him out of TV land. Go back to doing TV right. Go back to the correct recipe of doing Star Trek. There's plenty of people that know how to do Star Trek at CBS. I can guarantee you guys can find up people that used to do The Next Generation. I can guarantee you guys can find people that used to do any of the other shows from Voyager to Deep Space Nine to Enterprise. Bring them back in and start doing Discovery the way Star Trek is supposed to be done. You can bring this, you can put a life raft out to Star Trek Discovery, and you could transform it into something. In fact, you need to transform it into something. You brought it into this universe. Star Trek Discovery is this festering. Its acronym being an STD is it's very much exactly that. It's the STD of Star Trek, guys. We need to give Star Trek a shot. We need to call the doctors right now, and we need to neutralize the STD, and we need to fix it. That's what you need to do, CBS. So rely on your experts. Rely on Jonathan Frakes. Rely on people that actually understand sci-fi, and that's not Michael Kurtzman. Again, I can't say it enough. It's not Michael Kurtzman. It's not action. It's not fancy cinematography. That stuff is expensive. You don't need to be expensive to have good Star Trek. In fact, you could make more money. Look at the Orville, guys. The Orville spends far less to make much better sci-fi and make more money for its network. You can do the same thing with Star Trek Discovery. You don't need over-the-top, cutting-edge, graphical crap. Star Trek used to do it with less money. Go back to that. Anyway, this is my message to you at CBS and the board of directors. You have to right the ship. Star Trek is a very important IP. Just stopping it, just cutting your losses, just canceling the series is not going to fix the damage that you've done. You can't just put the blinders on and pretend that Star Trek Discovery never happened, because it has happened. You have to find a way to fix all the damage that you've done with Star Trek Discovery. And the best way to fix all the damage that you've done with Star Trek Discovery is with Star Trek Discovery. You need a season 3 to repair Star Trek. Star Trek is a very lucrative IP, guys. It's one of your most profitable IPs. If you can fix it, you could just sell the IP off. You could sell the rights off if you need quick money. But I wouldn't suggest that. I wouldn't suggest that at all. But I'm telling you, you need to repair the damage you've made. Because Star Trek is going to be very valuable when Sherry Redstone gets her way and CBS and Paramount are back together in one corporation, and you're going to want to be making movies with the actual main timeline again and selling toys and going back to the heyday of Star Trek. Because that could happen in 2 years, 3 years from now. And the only way that's going to happen in the future is if you repair your mistakes that you're making right now. And that means a whole 180-degree turn, stop, put the brakes on, and fix Star Trek Discovery immediately. You need a season 3 to repair all of the damage that you have done. You need a season 3 of going in and fixing, explaining, repairing the canon violations that you've made. You need a season 3 dedicated to making Star Trek Discovery more like Star Trek. That's what you need. You basically, you need to fix the STD. You need to give yourselves your television show a shot. You need some medical help on that show. In fact, a doctor, a good doctor character could help the show. Bring in someone like a Bones or right now your doctor died. You're lacking a decent doctor character. Get rid of Michael Burnham. Just throw her out of an airlock. Maybe she dreamed. Maybe season 1 and 2 was just a dream by Michael Burnham. There you go. You've wiped out the whole mess that you created in season 1 and 2 by just making it an elaborate dream that Michael Burnham had one day while she was in a coma. I don't know. But you need to fix the problem because Star Trek is going to be very valuable for you guys when you all merge. CBS, Viacom, Paramount all becomes one company again, and you have access to the main timeline for movies. You're going to want a Star Trek that people actually want to watch. And the only way that we're going to want to watch the crap is if you guys actually fix Star Trek Discovery. And the best way to fix Star Trek Discovery is not to cancel it, but to actually do the hard work, put a season 3 in, and actually transform the show into Star Trek. And that means relying on people that know how to do it, like Jonathan Frakes, and getting rid of the clowns like Michael Kurtzman, who have put you in this position in the first place. That is my message to you, CBS. Stop with the all-access shenanigans. Put it all on one free for everyone to see platform. Put a special platform that is commercial free out there that people can subscribe to and be done with it. There's no reason to hide stuff behind paywalls and piss off your customers. And for the love of God, fix Star Trek. That should be your primary directive in the corporate offices of CBS. Because it's one of your most valuable shows. And it's going to be very valuable once CBS and Paramount and Viacom are all remerged back together. And you'll be able to utilize the primary timeline of Star Trek once again. Anyway, with that being said, this has been James Johnson, and my message to CBS on how they can fix the entire Star Trek problem and fix the CBS All Access shenanigans. Have a good day.